Govinda Singh 1984, Guvluv84Arya rose in this Limited, and I just wanted to do a blog regarding Islamic countries. Now, unknowing people in the West, in Europe or the United States of America, when they look at a map of the Middle East, the globe, an atlas, and it says the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iraq, the Islamic Republic of Syria, the Islamic Republic of Turkey, the Islamic Republic of Egypt, the Islamic Republic of Tunisia, the Islamic Republic of Algeria, the Islamic Republic of Morocco. And they naturally assume, oh, these must all be Muslim Islamic countries. That's not necessarily the case. There's more to it than that. To get things into perspective, we're in 2022 and Islam came to be in the 6th century. The rise of Islam happened in the 6th century, so it's a few thousand years ago. And so I'm just going to break it down. Before Islam, in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, there still are the Amazighs. The Amazighs were the original inhabitants of northwest Africa. And then you had Kemetic Egypt. Now Kemet, if I was to say Kemet, most people don't understand what Kemet. Kemet is, if you look at the ancient pharaohs and the ancient pyramids of ancient Egypt, and the ancient temples, and the ancient gods and goddesses like Amun-Ra, Horus, and Ma'at, Hathor, Set, Anubis, Osiris, or Osiris, I think that's how you pronounce it. So that was the ancient pantheon of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. In Jerusalem, in ancient Philistine and Phoenician, Canaanite was the ancient religion, ancient region, and I think they spoke the Ugaritic language. I think I'm pronouncing it right. And in ancient Mesopotamia, you had the ancient Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians. Now people say, oh, by the time of the Islamic conquest there were no Sumerians left. That's not true. All that means is the ancient civilization of Mesopotamia were the Sumerians, and they followed the Anunnaki pantheon and the Marduk and the Ishtar and the Inanna, ancient gods and goddesses pantheon. And it's just by the time, because of various transitioning and various eras and various new dynasties and various new rulers, it doesn't mean that the Sumerians became extinct. It just means they just became citizens or civilians during other leaderships, whether it was the Babylonian leadership or the Assyrian leadership. There's transitioning of ancient timelines and different periods of different rulers and different dynasties that went by different names. And so with Persia, you had the ancient pantheon of Ahura Mazda, and the 101 names for Ahura Mazda is Harvest Khuda, which is more commonly known in Asia. Khuda is the name for God. And they were the pantheon of Shah, the Gyomars, and they had the pantheons of ancient king Shahs like Faridion, and ancient goddesses like Anaita. They worshipped the star constellation Dishta. They had healers like Thraithona, Thrita, and so that was the ancient pantheon. Cyrus the Great is more commonly known in the West because he's mentioned in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Torah, and the Christian Bible. And so these were just these were just before the arrival of the House of Ibrahim Islam in the 6th century. But what happens is in the 6th century there's a conquest where the original religion of Allah, Al-Uzza, Al-Manat, Al-Lat, were attacked by the House of Ibrahim Mohammedans, because Muhammad said that everyone's going against Abraham's example and they're all worshipping false gods and only Allah's the true God, and and Abraham's the first Muslim, so everyone has to face Mecca. And so there's a big bonbonga. Unfortunately, the civilizations such as the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Kemetic Egyptians, and the Amazigh in North Africa, they fell to the invading Arabs. So what happened? There was many resistance in North Africa and Northwest Africa. There was the Queen Dia of the Amazighs. People resisted, but unfortunately, their civilizations collapsed under the Arab invasions. And basically, what happened during these times? if people refused to convert to Islam, they were put to death. Women were kidnapped and raped and taken as war booty. And basically they replaced the indigenous language, because Amazigh spoke the Amazigh language. The Kemetic Egyptians had their own languages. The Canaanites had their own languages. The Mesopotamians had their own language. The Kurdish, the Arameans, the Syria, Aramaic and Persian, Farsi, everyone had their own languages. But then their languages were sidelined and replaced because Arabic was made the official language. So as centuries have gone by, thousands of years, you have those who are raised to think that they're from Adam and Eve, because that's the pretext that's been laid before them, that they have to study and read, and they solely think that they have to model themselves on what has been drilled indoctrinated into their head, that Ibrahim is their father and the father that they have to model themselves on. But they don't question why. Well, how is it that they have to follow this? They don't think outside the box. They're just very narrow-minded in what's been drilled into their head. But there are underground secret councils. And what are the underground secret councils? The underground secret councils are the Mamluks. Now, Mamluk is spelled M-A-M-L-U-K, Mamluk, and it means non-Muslim warriors who were enslaved by Islam due to the forced conversions. And so the Mamluks, they held on to their ancient heritage. They held on to the ancient Amazigh language. They held on to the ancient Kemetic Egyptian customs and traditions. They held on to the ancient Canaanite, Nativ, Kadesh religions, of the ancient Canaanite religions of the Anat and the El lords like El and Baal Hadad and Asherah and the Queen of the Heavens and things like that. And so the Mamluks held on to the ancient Babylonians, Sumerians, the Anunnaki. The only reason why we know that there was Sumerians and the Anunnaki traditions and the Canaanite religions and the Kemetic Egyptian pharaohs and what they used to practice is because underground secret councils formed where they held on and salvaged the ancient heritage. But the thing is, the Middle East is divided into two groups. There are those who've been raised to model themselves on Abraham and Ibrahim alone and model themselves on Abraham's example. And there's those who know about pre-Islamic, before Abraham, what they used to do before the house of Abraham attacked and enslaved their civilizations. But the thing is, if I was an Amazigh in North Africa and I was to go to apply for a job, and I was to say my name is Dia, even though it's the Queen's name, I'm just using it as an example, that Amazigh Queen called Dia. If I was to say my name is Dia, I'm not going to get a job, because the councils that are in place are going to look at me and say, what sort of name is that? And when I have an Amazigh name, or a Kemetic Egyptian name, or a Canaanite name, or a Sumerian Babylonian name, a non-Arab name, they're going to look at me as like, you're kufr, you have no worth, you're unworthy. And what the Islamic councils say is they press on every single document for every newborn male that their first name has to be Muhammad. So when they apply for jobs, if they don't introduce themselves as Muhammad, they're not going to get a job. So what do you think people have to reluctantly do? They have to feed their families, they have to survive, their civilization's enslaved, so many have to pretend, they blag it. So just because you've come across someone from Morocco or Egypt or Iraq and it says in their passport Muhammad, you're going to automatically think, oh, this must be a follower of Muhammad. It doesn't mean that. It means there could be an Amazigh underground secret council, there could be a Kemetic Egyptian, there could be a Sumerian, a Babylonian, there could be a Canaanite from Philistine, but they have no option but to just comply to get by in order to earn a revenue to feed and take care of their families. So many are blag it, just lie. And yes, that's basically just what I wanted to say. I'm going to continue my next blog.